What happens when a former TV news anchor joins the other side and starts a campaign to tell the truth? Well, the left freaks out and does everything it can to shut him up. They swatted him. They condemned him on social media. They did everything they could to silence him. It didn't work.
Your show's a big hit. It's a big success. You do fantastically. Your ratings are great, and we're very proud of you.
This is Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags.
Joe Pags live from the Man Cave Cuckoo's Nest Arsenal of Democracy, surrounded by ballistic coefficient freedom in gargantuan portions. Doesn't it feel like home to you?
It feels unbelievable. I'm here at the home of Ted Nugent, the Man Cave. You told me this is how you do a man cave. This is the only proper way to do it.
All the other man caves are like female compared to mine. In fact, not gender confused, full-on female. No,
How much ammo are we surrounded with?
We're surrounded by amounts of ammo. Maximum. If the ATF
we got to move boxes of ammo out of the way to do this.
And if the ATF is watching, I have more ammo than you do, and they know it because I'm legal and you're not.
It is.
Did I mention that?
It is the Motor City Madman. Now we've known each other for 26 years.
And are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. When we first met, you and Shemaine started bow season in Michigan, and I sent a reporter out, Jennifer Grant, and she came back. She said, Ted Nugent said, tell that freaking Parker, which is the name I went by then, that we're kindred spirits.
Yes, we are.
They say Ted Nugent said that about me.
Well,
now I was like, what? I was a TV news anchor at a small station in Lansing. We actually put that station on the air, and you were watching it from, I guess, Jackson.
Yes, we were down at our backstrap ranch in Jackson swampland. And, ultimately, and with all sincerity, which is every word out of my mouth forever, especially following Memorial Day, on the phone with heroes of every branch of the military and guys that watched the blood and guts that brought us this First Amendment. So, in all sincerity, I pay attention to the First Amendment voices and those that stand up for truth, logic, common sense. The radical extremism of God, family, country, Constitution, Bill of Rights, Ten Commandments, Golden Rule, Declaration of Independence, law and order, good over evil, goodwill and decency, work ethic, all that radical stuff. And you, Mr. Pags, deserve me. You represent the heartbeat. Every time you take advantage of, manipulate, and work hard on getting that truth, logic, and common sense across to people. People tell me all the time, did you hear Joe Pags? He sounds like you. Did you hear Joe Pags? He really represented what my family believes in. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you played an enormous role in stopping the American embarrassing toilet flush of the deep state and help get Donald Trump, a real constitutional commander-in-chief, back in the driver's seat of this great experiment in self-government. So I love you, man.
Well, I love you back. And I got to tell you, I was a TV news anchor for about another 4 or 5 years after.
That had to hurt.
After you and I. Well, it did, because meeting you and realizing that the Motor City Madman, the guitar guy that jumped off the gigantic, amplifiers.
Fender amplifiers, which is why both of my knees are replaced, by the way. I hope you enjoyed that.
Well, I did, but to know that you could be that guy and this guy that I know personally, that got me out of TV news, Ted. That said, I've got to go do radio. I've got to go do opinion television. I've got to make sure that I comment on what's going on in society. As a TV news anchor, I couldn't do that.
Good. Well, there really isn't a dichotomy.
You had a big role in that.
Well, thank you. I have heard that from a lot of people in the media that were afraid of getting fired.
Yes.
And a lot of them got fired.
I fired them before they could fire me.
Yes, well, that's what I do. I don't get fired. I do the firing. But what you're talking about, that Motor City Madman, my best attempt at being Little Richard, which I've really accomplished.
Who you're a foot taller than, by the way.
Yeah, and greasier. But the leaping off the amps was a manifestation of the intensity of what Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley, Little Richard, and Howlin' Wolf, and certainly the Motown Funk Brothers, and Mitch Ryder, and all the great soulful work ethic. James Brown, the hardest working man in show business, had a huge impact. So the Motor City Madman leaping off those amplifiers, playing this dangerous fire-breathing guitar licks with a pile-driving rhythm and groove, it really is the same extreme dedication to the performing arts and the soul music inspiration of all the best music in the world, especially mine, which happens to be the best music in the world. That is the same intensity with which I pursue truth, logic, and common sense. So yes, I have to keep it PG-13 for the most part, usually PG-8 in the media, but I still get the evidence-drenched. There's a difference between truth, logic, and common sense and evidence-drenched truth, logic, and common sense. And when I speak, we saw the manifestation in November of 24, where even the embarrassment of fence sitters and moderates who literally stand back and watch bad stuff happen.
Yeah.
They finally went, my God, I've been watching an awful lot of bad stuff happen. And I heard Joe Pags, and I heard Jesse Waters, and I heard Ted Nugent, and I heard Joe Rogan. And wait a minute, I can make a difference by standing up and doing my number one American responsibility, and that is voting for good over evil. And it really is that. Not more comfortable over less comfortable. It's gone way beyond that. It's literally voting good over evil. Joe Biden, pure evil. The Democrat Party is still the party of the Klan. They still would vote against the Civil Rights Act. And people are starting to see that in their actual actions instead of their fake words and scripting. So we did play a role in that, but it was the people who were self-inflicted apathy is the definitive failure of mankind to stand back and let the Nazis put the Jews on the train.
Well, you had a lot to do with getting rid of the apathy. You had a lot to do with getting people out to vote. When you came on my show and told me that there were hundreds of thousands of hunters
that didn't vote.
They weren't registered to vote.
Never. Unbelievable.
But you got them to.
Yes.
What was that, Hunter Nation?
We started Keith Mark. He's my attorney buddy. There's one good attorney out there. His name is Keith Mark. And we talked to Donald Trump during the 2016 campaign.
Right.
And we were in Michigan, in Detroit. I played the national anthem for tens of thousands of people for Donald Trump as he was running for the presidency. And he was talking to me. He goes, I hear you're a big hunter. And I go, yep, I certainly am. Can you smell the venison? And we got into conversation with then candidate Donald Trump. And the takeaway from the conversation was that he doesn't even want to address the sporting demographic because they don't vote. And Keith and I looked at each other and went, well, what do you mean? We're passionate conservatives, God, family, country, private property rights. We the people, not the king owning the game in the wildlife. We the people have stewardship responsibilities. And he goes, no, all our research shows, this is President Trump saying this, the candidate. So Keith and I, we literally bought all the registered deer hunters in Michigan. We bought that information and we cross-referenced it.
And he was right, wasn't he? He was right. They weren't voting.
62% of Michigan deer hunters had never registered to vote.
That's nuts.
And then we went nationwide, all 50 states. There's not a state in the nation in 2016 where even 50% of registered hunters had ever registered to vote. So we went on a warpath. I did robocalls, and I literally called people. We had people knocking on the door. We created hunternation.org. Nonprofit, and we don't even endorse a candidate. We just know
register.
That the people we're reaching out to, for the most part, the vast majority, like 90% of the licensed hunters, are conservatives, conservative constitutional conservation, and we bludgeoned them. We literally bludgeoned them and said, if you don't vote, Nancy Pelosi would like to say thank you.
Yeah.
And we got them to vote. And you know that we had a huge impact in all 7 battleground states in the recent 2024.
Without it, he doesn't win like that.
We could have won it even if the moderates and the fence sitters hadn't got off their ass.
Right.
Just hunternation.org got an army of conservatives that heretofore sat it out, which the experiment in self-government, you're not allowed to sit it out, especially after Memorial Day.
Yeah, right.
So, hunternation.org, hunternation.org, go there.
Oh, it's amazing what you guys pulled off. It's Ted Nugent in his own lair. So glad to have him on the program today. So I wanted to go way back. Let's go way back. Now, you
I'm
mentioned
good at that.
You mentioned that you were 70, what? 77?
I'll be 77 this deer season.
What the heck are we talking about here? You look like you're younger than I am. I'm
well,
58.
if I had some sleep, I'd be downright handsome. But these are ammo bags under my eyes, so everybody relax.
How many years ago, what was it, 70 years ago you touched the guitar? Why the guitar?
Well, I was born, I think God loves me a little bit extra. I was born in Detroit, the epicenter of work ethic.
In the city of?
In the city of Detroit, 1948, December 13th. And my dad was fresh out of the Korean War and World War II.
Wow.
And Detroit was universally known as not only the work ethic epicenter of the world, but the work ethic epicenter of the world that created the arsenal of democracy.
Right.
So that was the environment where people were proud of their productivity, proud of their neighborliness, proud of their yard, proud of their demeanor and their goodwill and their positive spirit and friendliness, especially epitomized at deer camp. And by the time I was 10 months old, the following year, 1949, I was in deer camp with my mom and dad and my older brother, Jeff. And I've never missed a deer season since 1949.
There was deer camp in Detroit back then, or did you go north?
Up north? Had to go up north. There was no
Everybody
deer
says up north.
Now there's more deer down here than there is up there. But
really?
Back then, there was only deer up north. And something happened in that.
For those who aren't from Michigan, let me just throw this in there. Everybody goes up north. Here's Michigan. If you live anywhere here, you go there for any 3-day weekend, even for most weekends. So, but there were not deer in Detroit area. You had to go there to get them.
Now there's way too many deer. By the way, Michigan DNR, would you please open the season to a responsible level in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County? There is a dead slaughtered deer every 50 yards on every paved road in Wayne, Oakland, Macomb County. And the Michigan DNR have turned into soulless, anti-hunting bureaucrats that are not doing the right thing. And that's truthful in every state. But anyhow,
imagine a bureaucrat not doing the right thing.
Regarding growing up, it was the guitar. I mean,
when did you know it was the guitar, though? You're a musical guy. You're a talented guy. Why the guitar?
Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
I heard the Chuck Berry, the Ventures. The electric guitar, Les Paul had just electrified the guitar a few years before I was born.
Wow.
So it went from a strumming instrument, folk music, can't stand that stuff, to a grinding Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley grunt and grind.
Yeah.
And I think Billy Gibbons said it, an infant right after conception, if you play a Bo Diddley lick, which is even an infant, that infant will start to dance in the belly.
Absolutely.
So thank God
no doubt
for Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry, but the groove and the rhythm and the soulfulness, the musical authority of those founding fathers. And again, Bo Diddley, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave. I was at Motown, Hitsville, USA, all these incredible songs that have such rhythm and such spirit. So I was inundated with that. And once you saw the Ventures playing Walk, Don't Run and Perfidia, a little before your time, but look them up, Walk, Don't Run and Perfidia.
Okay.
You have to know these songs. And so I wanted to shoot the bow and arrow because of Fred Bear and my dad.
Yeah.
48, Fred Bear was promoting bow hunting. Brand new reintroduction of archery by Fred Bear and Howard Hill and Ben Pearson and George Nichols, a bunch of guys at that time. But my dad was a bow hunter already when I was born in 48. And so it was a combination. Here it is, 77 years later. Guess what I did today? I shot my bow and I played my guitar. It's still enthralling. It's so stimulating. But the mystical flight of the arrow is such a force of focus. It's Zen. It's martial arts. Well, so is good music. So my dad always forced us to be the very best that we can be. If you're going to paint that white picket fence, you better paint it perfect, or I'm going to paint it again. Right. So that discipline, that nurturing, that family spirit, it channeled me into being a good archer and a marksman, a safe gun handler, because we always shot, we always went hunting, and we always, shot the bow and arrow. And my dad said, if you're going to play guitar, you're going to practice every day. He set the timer on the stove for 30 minutes, made me practice. Thank God. Let's hear it for my dad. So that was the force of appreciating the victory over the evil Japanese and Nazis by being a great American, work ethic, dedication to excellence. So all I can say about that is, duh. What's plan B?
But what I need to know, I was a music major in college. I'm a saxophone guy, Yeah,
I love the sax. Junior Walker's as inspiring as any guitar player.
Shotgun's one of my favorite songs. So how did you know that you had the mind, the skill, the fingers, the dexterity to do it? You could want to do it, Ted, but God gave you the ability to do it. You know what I mean? Was it just practice, or is it a natural thing to you?
That is such an important question, almost as important as my answer. Because I wasn't gifted.
Really?
struggled.
You are not a natural.
I've always been rather uppity. I don't know if you've noticed that I had those are flames coming out of my ass, but relax and grab the marshmallows. I've always been really high energy. And my biggest task in life is to discipline and manage my uppity, high energy life. And what forces you to do that? Learning to play Chuck Berry licks.
Okay.
You can't just throttle and you can't just pick up a bow and fling. You got to have hand, eye, spirit, breathing. I could do it for you right here. I do on my Real America Voice. I shoot my bow and arrow. And I've inspired hundreds of thousands of people to pick up the bow and arrow because it forces you to use God's gifts to hit the bullseye.
Yeah.
Equally dynamic is the essentiality of practicing your dream move, whether it's a three-point basket or a Tiger Woods golf hit or whatever you're a great welding. You better practice. So I struggled, Joe. I mean, all the guitar players. I talked to Donnie Henderson. He was the guitar player in the band in Detroit that we won the Battle of the Bands over. He was in the gang. I was in the Lords. But he played Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley better than I did. But I had a little something special. I had a little bit more
stage presence.
I think
attitude.
I wanted to. I couldn't have told you I wanted to be Little Richard.
Right.
But watching Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and even Elvis, the way they performed, the way they delivered the soulfulness of that black influence and the blackness of Chuck and Bo and Little Richard, Pete Brown and Wilson Pickett. We wanted to be like that, so we practiced and practiced. I still to this day practice all the time.
Did you know those guys? Any of them?
I played bass guitar for Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley. And
how does that
stage. Go? I was on the stage with a moment of silence. Everybody take a deep breath. Me, Ted Nugent, the Whack Master, the Motor City Madman, was on the stage of the brand new Cobo Hall in 1964.
Oh, wow.
With the Funk Brothers and the Motown Orchestra. I mean, they were right there.
The actual rhythm section for the Motown sound.
The gods of thunder. So I played bass with Chuck and Bo in the 70s, and we emulated.
How do you get that gig? You were playing with Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley?
Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley were doing a string of concerts in Florida. And
how are you as a bass player?
Well, the Amboy Dukes were on tour with 350 shows a year.
Wow.
Constantly.
Wow.
And we were down there in Jupiter, Florida, and Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley were going to play, and the promoter said, they need a band. So I said, I can play with Chuck Berry and Bo. I know all their songs. And, here's a painful, I don't mean to knock my heroes, but I knew their songs better than they did.
Wow.
It was pretty challenged. But anyhow, so I got called up on stage to play bass for Bo Diddley and Chuck Berry at the West Palm Beach Auditorium.
Yeah.
And it was like a dream come true. And then standing next to the Funk Brothers. In fact, I can't say exactly what the Funk Brothers said, but my band, the Lourdes, we were jamming on Shake a Tail Feather and Little Latin Loop-de-Loop.
Oh yeah.
And I was 13 or 14 maybe. And we emulated all our black heroes, so we were really tight for little white punks. I mean, really tight. Like Mitch Ryder taught us. And the biggest, blackest funk brother got up off I don't know if he got up off the piano or the drums, but he comes strolling over. And he put his hand on my shoulder. And I don't know if you need to edit this or not, which is a tragedy. But he put his hand on my shoulder, and I'm going, the Funk Brothers. The Funk Brothers, there's a Funk Brother coming over here. We were all like excited. He put his hand on my shoulder. He goes, boy, you keep playing guitar like that, you're going to be
Oh, no. Oh, no.
What a great compliment. But see, you react, oh, no, when this black
in this day and age. No, I get why it's a compliment. I get it.
But how did we let the greatest compliment turn into a letter? That was the ultimate compliment a musician could ever dream of.
Oh, I guarantee it.
And now I can't say it.
Oh, you said it.
I just said it.
Yes, you can't say it, but he said it. It's become the N-word because for some reason
from now on, Nugent is the N-word. Okay, let's.
For some reason in our society, we feel better if we don't say it. That is a huge compliment. When I was out playing, I actually grew up in Palm Beach County. I played in Jupiter. I played at the Burt Reynolds Backstage
You know what I'm
Lounge.
talking about then.
Well, I did. I played with groups that I was the only white guy. A lot of them, because I was a freelance guy. They need a saxophone player. You show up there, you go and you play.
Another reason we deserve each other.
Exactly. But it's for somebody to say you've got soul and rhythm, and you're for some reason you're part of the group, of the end group.
Yes.
Then that was an ultimate compliment. That meant get that guy. He can play with us.
Because there is no, I mean, I've said this before, a lot of people, they don't grasp it, but grasp this. There is no music that anyone is moved by that doesn't have a black influence.
Oh, 100%.
There isn't any music in the world. I know Beethoven and Bach and the frilly shirts and the silly wigs, but there isn't authoritative music, whether it's pop or except some of the rap stuff. I cannot find James Brown in any rap music.
No.
But all the music that moves us when it comes on the truck and you turn it up, Stranglehold, when Walk This Way or AC/DC or ZZ Top or Van Halen or Foreigner or Cheap Trick or Sammy Hagar or Grand Funk, no matter who it is, or even some country stuff, because they all have the honky-tonk.
Yeah.
And that's all from Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and Mose Allison.
Yeah.
And that authoritative unleashing of the shackles of slavery, thanks to America, thanks to
Republicans, by the way.
Republicans, that unleashed Little Richard.
Yeah.
That's where Little Richard came from.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that when you are heartbroken and anguished by the curse of slavery, the emotion in that blues is unique to that life experience.
Right.
And then when you're finally free at last, it turns into Chuck Berry and Bo Diddley and Little Richard.
And by the way, all those guys, most of them never had a problem with a guy like you or a guy like Elvis. That you guys weren't doing black music.
We weren't appropriating anything.
Well,
we were
you weren't.
inspired.
Well, you were adding to it. B.B. King was asked about Elvis once, and he said, I think it's everybody's once you play it, and then you can add to it. You can take from it.
Yep.
And he loved what Elvis did. Little Richard loved what Elvis did. I guarantee Chuck Berry loved that you were able to play with them and play not only with them, but as good, if not better than them.
You know, I think it really...
There's an appreciation there that you understood what they were laying down, and you took it to the next level. Nothing wrong with that.
A powerful emphasis on the inescapable, sacred influence of black music. It started with Howlin' and Muddy and the heartbreak of the blues and the savagery, the ferocity, the emotion, the dripping emotion of slaved people expressing themselves through music, and then equally powerful, even maybe more powerful, when Emancipation Proclamation, and now you can unleash.
Yeah.
You can sing songs like Little Richard did.
Right.
What a monster! What an incredible musical force he was. So when you hear the music that you like, there's a Howlin' Wolf in there.
Yeah, there is.
There's a Mose Allison, a Robert Johnson, because of their authority, and that's what I've aspired to. When we go on stage, we do this fist thing. Give me your fist. My band, we push. We go.
Okay.
I want some soul music. No white people. No Caucasians tonight. Because you got James Brown established the bar, and I think every musician that you love would go, yep, Ted's right.
Yeah.
And I've played with Toby Keith's band. It's called Country Music.
Yeah.
That's a rhythm and blues band.
Yeah.
God rest Toby Keith. What a great man. And Big and Rich, that's a rhythm and blues band.
Right.
When I play with these country guys, those guys are frustrated rhythm and blues rock and roll guys, because country doesn't call upon quite that energy level 99% of the time, which is why every country artist plays a rock and roll song at the end of the night. Toby Keith plays Stranglehold every night.
Really? Did he?
Yes, every night.
Let me ask you that. And it's Ted Nugent, obviously. Go to tednugent.com, tednugent.com. Check out Uncle Ted's Vault. What are we calling it? The Nuge Vault?
The Nuge Vault.
How do they find out about the Nuge Vault?
Well, nugevault.com.
Okay.
My drummer, Jason Hartles, we jam and practice.
Some of this stuff is unbelievable that's coming out.
It's unbelievable. We're finding rehearsal tapes from 1965 with Amboy Dukes, the original demo where I was teaching the band Stranglehold because I had a vision. That's why I dropped the name Amboy Dukes, and the incredible authority with which my bandmates perform my compositions, because my compositions are sacred. They're my statement. I mean, having a lot of pushback from a lot of record people. Who go, well, you can't sing about that. I go, but that's my song. What's his name? Eric Clapton sang a song called "I Shot the Sheriff." but he didn't shoot the sheriff.
Right.
Anyhow.
Right.
It's a song.
Right.
And I've had to explain this to people. So when I decided to drop the name Amboy Dukes, I had a vision, and the vision has turned out to be accurate.
Newsvault.com, newsvault.com. Go there and check it out. Also go to tednugent.com. Follow him everywhere. He's an incredible interviewer and host as well. Go check him out on the show it's on a Real America's Voice.
Yeah. And we have Ted Nugent Spirit of the Wild on the Pursuit channel for 36 years. The top-rated conservation, hunting, patriotic backstrap orgy in the great outdoors.
You got to go and check it out right now. When did you know it'd be a career? When did you know I can do this forever?
Well,
were you a teenager? Were you in your 20s?
I started so young. I was so dumb. I went to school in America, which means I was the dumbest person.
They were better back then, though, the schools, I think.
Very little. I don't think it was very. When you graduate from an American school, you don't know how to balance a checkbook.
That's true. That's true.
Or talk, or write, or read, or pull your pants up, or personal hygiene. Oh my God, the teachers' union. Thanks a lot for nothing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyhow. I didn't know I couldn't have articulated any of this till I was in my late teens. And even then, you've never heard the words ever come out of my mouth. I want to be a rock star.
Right.
I never thought those words. I don't want to be a rock star. I want to make the music that I feel and project. So by the time I was 10, I was playing at the Michigan State Fair with Joe Podorczyk, Capital School of Music on Grand River. We played Walk Don't Run in Honky Tonk in the key of F, by the way, which is good for a sax.
Very good for a sax. E sucks. You guys play everything in E. I hate E. That's F sharp for me.
That's why we played it in F, just for you guys.
Thank you.
And for the keyboard players. But anyhow, so I started playing, and you can tell that I'm uppity and I'm inspired and easily stimulated, because I surround myself with things that really I'm passionate about.
Yeah.
So by the time I was 10 or 11, I was already playing in a band and trying to learn chuck and bow and rock and roll rhythm stuff. But my teacher, Joe Podorczyk, was actually a bass player with the Motown Funk Brothers.
Oh, wow.
When Bob Babbitt and James Jamerson weren't there. Boy, I could tell you stories. My God, I keep here for 1,000 years. So I didn't know you could make a career. I didn't know the word career. I probably didn't ever hear the word career. I just knew that I had to sit down and find my statement on this guitar neck that looks limited, but it ain't.
How much did you make in the first gig that you ever got paid?
I remember 1959. We just moved from.
So you're 11.
I was 11. My sister Kathy had just been born. We moved from 23251 Florence to 15963 Warwick.
Nice.
My phone number was Kenwood 12345. See what happens when you're clean and sober?
That's amazing.
So anyhow, I just got this stupid Epiphone. Epiphones are awesome.
Yeah.
But this one that had the action on it, I couldn't even get my fingers on it. But that made my hands stronger. And you asked what was my first payment?
Right.
Corner of Warwick and Grand River, summer of '59, at Walt's Malt Shop.
Come on.
My first payment was a vanilla malt.
Yes.
Yes. I played a bunch of grooves. Chuck Berry.
Was it worth like a dime? A quarter?
I get you. Yeah, dime. You get
was it a dime? Okay.
Big malt for 10 cents. So I got paid a malt.
I'm a paid musician now.
I'm a paid musician.
Yeah. So you're 11 years old. I mean, when we fast forward to the late teens and the early 20s, how old were you when you hit it? How old were you?
I hit it at Walt's Malt Shop.
I without a doubt. You made it big. I get it.
Movement. But all of a sudden, I started the band The Lourdes with John Finley, God rest his soul, Tom Noel, my drummer, who I talked to last week.
Yeah. Wow.
John Brake, who passed away, ended up singing with the Amboy Dukes much later. But we're talking 1960 now.
Yeah.
John Finley, Pete Prim on bass. I can tell you what strings they used, what instruments they played, the amps, what speakers were in. Tom Noel on drums, and John Brake on lead vocal, and me on lead guitar. At that point, I got a Fender Duosonic, Duosonic through a Fender Bassman amp. And we practiced and practiced. We played all the hits, all the Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Little Richard, Motown stuff, James Brown. We played every James Brown song, every Wilson Pickett song, every Stax Volt. And we played it. John Brake hammered us to play grooving and soulful. No whites flashing around, just grind. just really grinded.
Love it.
And as young white kids, John reminded us that every song is an audition to be in James Brown's band.
Wow.
So
that's a great perspective.
Great perspective.
I love that.
So we won the Michigan Battle of the Bands. So again, I wasn't tuned into the various occurrences of our daily activities, but it was pretty powerful in '64 to be on stage with the Supremes.
Yeah, but how does word get around? There's no social media. You got very limited television.
We play
radio goes, but you're not on the radio at 11 years old. No. How does word get around? Holy crap! You got to go check this guy out.
Yeah,
there's something going on here.
Robin Seymour on Swingin' Time on CKLW.
Stop it! You were on Swingin' Time.
Yes. And so we would play wherever we could play. High school dances. The Amboy Dukes opened up for the Who at the Southfield High School.
Get out of here!
Wow! But I could tell you so many stories, but we just practice and practice. We'd play for a girlfriend's birthday party in the basement. We'd go to the VFW or the Elks Lodge or the church basement.
Right.
And we'd just jam. We created these BMFs. These BMFs where the word got out because we played so intense. We wanted to be James Brown. And as white kids, we misinterpreted James' musical authority. We thought everything had to be faster and louder, which isn't really the recipe, but it is a good recipe,
right?
Especially with the brand new. Now we got the invasion of American music by the Beatles and the Stones and the Yardbirds.
Right.
We were already way ahead of them.
What did you think of them, by the way? Because the Beatles, I think, was the first group that actually sang with an English accent. What did you think about that?
Well, first
did you love their music, or were you going, why are they singing like that?
You know, it was on the first Beatles album, don't you?
No.
Chuck Berry song, a Bo Diddley song,
really,
and a Motown song.
Smart.
Yeah, so
that's
we were
smart.
already doing that.
Yeah.
So when we heard their version, it was really impacting, not just because of the musicality of George, John, Paul, and Ringo, because they really were musical.
Right.
But it was the production. But what's his name? Come on.
I can't think of the guy's name. I don't know the guy who produced them. Who produced the Eagles? Or not the Eagles, the Beatles. The Beatles.
World, my mind, I should have more breakfast this morning. But it was the production. It was the crispness of Ringo's drums, the crispness of Paul's Hofner bass, the crispness of George Harrison's Gretsch Country Gentleman, which made Jim McCarty from Mitch Ryder change from a Birdland to Gretsch.
Really?
Gentleman. Absolutely. And the richness of John's, their voices together, just it was a rare alignment of planets with those four guys of supreme talent. But where did they get the inspiration from? Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, and Little Richard and James Brown. They've said it a million, but we already knew
Phil
that.
Spector?
So all of a sudden,
was it Phil Spector?
Not Phil Spector, no.
He worked
We're
with
going to be
Righteous
so
Brothers.
embarrassed that we can't remember.
Yeah, no, we should know the guy's name.
Because he was considered the fifth
Yeah.
Beatle, and he had an ear, just like Tom Werman on my solo album 50 years ago. Tom Werman is a producer, and Tony Reality's. They had an ear for the music, and I did my 6,995th concert last Saturday, and I told the guys as we're getting on stage, listen. I don't allow in-ears. You can't tune in what you want to hear.
Really?
You have to hear the band. Because the sound of the drums, the sound of the bass, the presence of the vocals, the richness of my Gibson Birdland. Listen, and that's what the producer of the Beatles and the Stones, Andrew Luke, old.
You got to look it up, Sam. Find out who produced the Beatles. Yeah. We have to know now.
So crazy.
It is.
Siri, who was the Beatles producer?
We got
George Martin. Are you kidding me? I didn't know the name George Martin. Shame on me. Shame on me. And here I come off.
This is how we do. We're not editing any of that out either. This is how we do. This is Ted Nugent in his lair, in his man cave. It's unbelievable to be here sitting with you. Been friends 26 years. You've been on the show a million times. You've been so gracious with your time.
Well, I love truth, logic, and common sense, and the prodiginators thereof.
We're trying to make it happen. So, in 1977, so when did Cat Scratch Fever come out? What year?
Well, I decided to drop the name Amboy Dukes, which, by the way, once again, a salute. God has blessed me with the greatest musicians. Those musicians in the Lourdes, and the Amboy Dukes, and the Damn Yankees.
Unbelievable.
And all the Ted Nugent bands right to this day with John Kutz and Jason Hartless and Johnny Big. Yes, I write the music, but it's their soulful performances that has impacted you.
But when did that song come out? That song
Cat Scratch was 77. Because
all right. So
75 was the solo album. 76 was Free for All, and 77 was Cat Scratch.
So my neighbor Jimmy Parnett had the album. Had you wearing some,
so did 10 million other
some
people.
Spandex, and you're diving off of some amplifier on the cover.
It's insane.
Right. So we decided to get our guitars out. We both had a dime store guitar.
Very inspiring.
And we tuned the guitar to a G chord. You didn't have to press any. You had a G chord just by open fret. And we learned how to play Cat Scratch Fever at night. I was 11 years old.
And
that's the inspiration. Now, I became a musician. I thought I'd do that for a living. Then I became a communicator. But I'm telling you, do you realize the impact? Not just me. I mean, just one dude. But there are millions who said, I'd like to do that.
Yes.
Look at how this guy's doing. Listen to that song. Why is he diving off I want to dive off the amplifier and have people scream for me.
The intensity of the music.
Take a single here, Sam.
I don't know. I mean, I leaped off those amps because I had all this
amazing,
all this energy that.
How many fans there right there?
There's 100,000 people.
100,000 people. That's no big deal.
Of these big outdoor concerts. But
did you have any idea at the time of the impact you were having on an 11-year-old or 15-year-old?
With just making music, and it's important to go ahead, even though it's just an acoustic guitar. But as a sax guy, so honk it.
Mm-hmm. Oh no, it came from it.
So it's just.
So instead of doing all this stuff, what we did, we just made a chord with an open fret. It was easier that way for us.
I have the luxury as I enter my 77th year of hindsight, especially with the ubiquity of social media.
Yeah.
So I've heard that millions of times. The most important feedback I've gotten, I love feedback, I've managed it better than anyone, is how many people have thanked me for either getting them clean and sober or inspired them to always be clean and sober. So that's really the message, because if you try to jump off those amps and play like I do on stage, if you're drunk or stoned, you're going to kill yourself.
You'd have broken your neck immediately.
So the clean and sober celebration
was it hard? Was it hard to convince people that you were, though? Because, Ted, you look like a nut job.
I never tried to.
In the best possible way. You're diving off of amps. You're riding in on a bison.
I think
there's something wrong with this guy. But
uninhibited, irreverent ferocity is a very important talent.
You told me this before, though. Early on, there were pressures for you to be a drug guy. And to be a drink guy. Were they always offering it to you? Were they always saying, come on, man, be cool like us? Was there a lot of pressure to do that?
I said no thank you to Jimi Hendrix. I said no thank you to Bon Scott. I said no thank you to Keith Moon. I
know him all over the place. Was Jimi Hendrix as good a guitar player as people say?
Yes.
Really?
Genius. If he would have only been able to keep that Stratocaster in tune more often, but
did he play it hard? They came out of tune?
No, that guitar when he used all that feedback and the dive bar, those things that just go completely out of tune.
Right.
But when he was in tune, in fact, I liked it even when he wasn't in tune. But when he was in tune, he played stuff that had never been played before. He and B.B. King was that way in the beginning.
Really?
The Ventures were that way in the beginning. Certainly, Eddie Van Halen was like that. You've got so many adventurers. But when it comes to noodling, and there's a lot of fretboard diarrhea going on out there.
Yeah, right.
I want to, like that, why Junior Walker's sax licks influenced me.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Hang on to those notes a little bit. That's what Jim McCarty. Jim McCarty from Mitch Ryan and the Detroit Wheels is the best guitar player that ever lived. Write it down. So you know who
you turned me on to, though, and I talked to you about this last time. By the way, our top 5 best guitarists ever by Ted Nugent is a huge deal on YouTube that you did on my show. Good. You also going after Taylor Swift, huge deal on YouTube that you did on my show. But before we get to any sort of pop music, the bubblegum music, you turned me on to the unbelievable talent of Glenn Campbell. I didn't know, dude. I went and watched this guy with the London Symphony Orchestra.
Savant.
I mean, the guy's shredding. He's jazz, he's rock, he's country, he's all of that in one guy. You're just looking out at the audience the whole time. I'm like, what am I looking at here?
I got to jam at a charity fundraiser with Alice Cooper and Glenn Campbell and a bunch of great artists.
How does that work? Ted Nugent, Alice Cooper, and Glenn Campbell?
It works perfect.
Really?
Because people who care and people who appreciate other approaches to music, statements, and adventure really cherish the opportunity to share a stage. And so Glenn would always ask me, because I play different than anybody, just the way I play the Stranglehold. Like he wanted me to show him how I play Stranglehold because it's all here. And he goes all over. I can go all over.
Yeah, right.
But in order to deliver a music statement, there's got to be a musical pattern, like Paperback Writer or Satisfaction or Walk This Way or Stranglehold or Catastrophic Fever. But he made me show him how I play Stranglehold because it's this hand, it has a Bo Diddley plus texture to it. And so I sat down with Glenn Campbell and I went, first of all, I like an open string. And that whole that's Bo Diddley. That's Bo Diddley with a bow and arrow.
Amazing.
So Glenn Campbell had unbelievable virtuosity, but we all have a different voice on our instrument.
It's as if you play the guitar like you're the drummer too.
Oh, absolutely. Johnny Bonangic from Mitch Ride and the Detroit Wheels. We opened up for a band called Billy Lee and the Rivieras, who changed their name to Mitch Ride and the Detroit Wheels a couple years later. And it was Walled Lake Casino in 1962. It was Billy Lee and the Rivieras, Mitch Ride and the Detroit Wheels. I know each guy's name. I know what instrument they played. I know what speakers they had. I knew everything about them because I was tuned into their incredible authority because they were inspired by James Brown.
Right.
And the brand new band in Detroit called Martha and the Vandellas. And then
We've heard of them.
Lourdes. Yeah. And Gene Pitney had a hit record called Town Without Pity that Ronnie Montrose did an instrumental version of. Well, I go into gory detail here, but that was the aura, that was the environment of unlimited inspiration to watch Martha and the Vandellas to pound, dancing in the streets and nowhere to run, and they hadn't even been heard of yet.
Yeah, but it's almost like you feel like your responsibility is to also play. Your drummer is unbelievable. I'm not saying that you could do without a drummer. But what I'm saying is it appears as though you are the freaking metronome.
My right hand
am I overstating it?
No. Everybody who pays attention to the details of my music, like every night on stage, they love it because my right hand is the guitar, the bass, the drums, the tambourine, the maracas, and a man with a crowbar and a 10-gallon drum. I like the shaka chaka chaka chaka.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll do another version of what Mitch Ryder, that their song "Jenny Take a Ride." The right hand.
Yeah, it's all there.
The chat.
Right.
I love all that stuff.
It is Ted Nugent. We're in his lair. Ted Nugent, of course, the Motor City Madman, honorary law enforcement officer. Of course, he's also formerly of the NRA Board of Directors.
Yes.
He's an all-American, America First, I love the Constitution guy. And been my friend, I'm lucky to for more than a quarter of a century. Go to NugentVault.com. NugentVault.com.
NugentVault.com is fascinating.
Let me ask you this, not including you, because I think you've got several in the top 5, if not top 10. What is the best guitar lick that people watching would recognize that you love?
Well, it's really like people always ask me what's my favorite gun or what's my favorite hunting dog. It's like ask me who's my favorite grandchild or what's my favorite song, what's my favorite guitar lick. But the best way I can answer that to deliver an unlimited overview of what the electric guitar can be, you'd have to listen to my hero, Jim McCarty.
Okay.
In the band Cactus, playing the song Parchment Farm.
Okay.
I don't know how he does that.
Okay.
Of course, it was a combination with Carmine Appice on drums and Tim Bogart from Vanilla Fudge, the rhythm section of Vanilla Fudge. Tim Bogart's passed away. Rusty Day, my singer, who was in Cactus, he passed away, rightly so. But what Jim McCarty did on the Les Paul guitar in the song Parchment Farm in the band Cactus is, to me, the quintessential high-energy delivery of soulful, authoritative, intense, inspiring guitar music. And,
right.
And the defining factor is that when my songs come on the radio, your truck's going to go faster. And if you be careful if you play Parchment Farm by Cactus, because your truck's going to go really fast. It's so intense.
I looked it up after you told me about it, and people need to go check out Jim McCarty.
Unbelievable.
He's an unbelievable musician. Let me ask you this.
And I talked to Jimmy just recently. He and I
Really?
keep in touch, yes.
He's still playing?
Yes, he plays all over Detroit. He's a monster. So soulful.
It's Ted Nugent. It's unbelievable to have this time with him here in his lair. And make sure you go to tednugent.com, get every book, get every album. And if he's anywhere near you, he's doing smaller shows by choice. You can fill out, auditoriums now if you'd like to.
Yeah, and if I'm
go check
anywhere
these
nearby
out.
you, be sure you wear Kevlar around your head. Because the music, it'll decapitate you. My band is so intense. I'm an old man, Joe. We played my 6,995th show at Johnny's place in Salado last week.
I love it.
Thousands and thousands of people that were really paying attention. They really love what John and Johnny and I do. Listen to these words. These words should shock you. They shock me.
Yeah.
That was my most fun guitar music night of my life.
Wow.
6,995th because my Birdland, Calvin Ross, Lone Star Music, we're always experimenting with amplifiers and speakers and setups. My Gibson Birdland into a custom amp through a couple of Fender Twins. The sound is so expansive and rich. And John and Johnny, they are my right hand.
Yeah.
And the dynamics, we go to 10 a lot, but we hover around 2 and 3 a lot. And then we jump up to 5 and 6, and then we crescendo at 10 for the rest. It's for me to be able to say at my old age, considering the gigs I've done,
Yeah.
the intensity of my concerts are legendary because of my bandmates.
Right.
And because of our dedication to those soulful inspirations. For me to tell you that last Saturday at Johnny's place was the most fun guitar music night of my life. I'm playing stuff that is just insane, rhythmical, and biting. I get these notes that just like a Black & Decker right into the retina. It's just so beautiful.
Love hanging out with Ted Nugent. Stranglehold, 50 years old now. I was watching a clip from Joe Rogan, I don't know, a month ago, 2 months ago.
He loves that song.
I don't know when they did this, but he's sitting there with a guy. I don't know who the guy is. And Rogan says, well, Stranglehold. And the guy goes, yeah, I don't know. He goes, no. And Rogan goes, the guy goes, that sounds kind of familiar.
Yeah,
and then he has Jamie or whoever play the song. Yeah. The guy goes, oh, of course I know that song.
Yeah.
So, I mean, people know your music, even if they don't know that they know your music. And they're starting to recognize it more and more and more. What do you think of that? That for Joe Rogan, the most popular podcaster, the great comedian, Fear Factor guy, you can almost see him doing his job to the rhythm of Stranglehold.
It's extremely humbling, but equally inspiring. And again, we just wrapped up Memorial Day.
Yeah.
And I heard from Navy SEALs, Delta Force, Green Berets, Army Rangers, some guys that haven't got a category. And they play Stranglehold when they go into battle. And a lot of these fighters and wrestlers, they'll play Stranglehold as they enter the arena. I was in Fallujah with the Marines in 2004 with Toby Keith. And every time we got together at a camp with the U.S. Marine warriors, they'd all mention Stranglehold. And we had some cheap-ass guitars there. And they all reference how Stranglehold, and I've got photos here where heroes of the military are coming out of battle and they play Stranglehold going into it and Stranglehold coming out of it.
Wow.
Because there is a militant pulse to Stranglehold. It was a middle finger song to the music industry that said they don't like guitar solos and they don't like, feedback guitar, and that's all passé. We got disco coming in.
And you said, watch this.
And I said, yeah, we'll try this on for size, mother. Anyhow, so the song Stranglehold is Here I Come Again Now, Baby, like a dog in heat.
Yeah.
You can tell it's me by the clamor I like to tear up the street. I've been smoking for so long, I'm here to stay, even though they kept telling me, well, nobody's interested in that. Meanwhile, I'm selling out all these concerts every night. People are going berserk. Yeah. But some guy in New York says the music isn't pertinent, but I just did 1,000 gigs where I think it was.
Right.
I'm so... I got you in a stranglehold, best get out of my way. The road I cruise is a bitch, now you can't turn me round. If a house gets in my way, I'll burn that sucker down. Remember the night that you left me, the music industry abandoned me?
Yeah.
Well, you put me in my place. Well, I got you in a stranglehold and I crushed your face. It's so beautiful.
Wait, it is. I've always wanted to ask you this question, though. I think you're a really good singer. I think you're amazing.
I love to sing.
Why didn't you sing that song?
I ran into a guy named Derek St. Holmes in Detroit, and he had a band called Scott. And
Because I think it sounds great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
but I think you could have killed it.
I could have killed it.
Yeah.
But Derek has a tenor.
Yeah.
He has a great tenor, and I did a guide. And that's what the Nuge Vault is so fascinating, because you'll see my
NugeVault.com. Do it.
NugeVault.com. We're finding the rehearsal tapes where I played the bass for Rob, who's the world's greatest bass player.
Yeah.
But I used open strings, and that's not normal for bass.
Right.
That whole it has an inescapable pulse. And that's the bass line. And so
I think we could hear this one if you wanted to play the electric. I think we could hear that one too. It's up to you.
Yeah, well, my God, the mighty Birdland. But the way I started that,
Unbelievable. You can feel it. Unbelievable. Come on, dude.
Look.
Come on, man.
What?
At 77,
What
Goosebumps
the hell
are-
kind of music is this? It's a love song.
This is going to be the geekiest music question you've ever been asked, or a statement that you've ever heard. As a music guy, your decision to take it up an octave the second time, you know what I mean? You're like, when you go up there, I'm like, well, who the hell made him go up? It sounds
Not
perfect.
only that, but
it sounds perfect. But what are you doing up there?
But that's a weird. I don't go from G to A, which is the pulse of the song.
Right.
I go from A9 to B9.
Wow.
It's actually a ninth chord.
Wow.
But whatever. There's a certain throttle touch to it that I love all you other guitar players out there. I mean, I love you guys, but you guys can't play that lick.
No.
No one's ever got that lick right. They get it close, but that little you can't even transcribe that. You'd have to like take an ink pen and splash it on the page.
I love it. It's an amazing decision. It's an amazing song. It's the amazing Ted Nugent.
50 years. By the way, we have at tednugent.com, we have the 50th anniversary. I'm going to give you one of these.
Thank you.
The 50th anniversary of Stranglehold T-shirt.
I'd make that look good.
tednugent.com. And
that would
also
make me look good.
Raising money for the military and children's charities. I've been signing hats.
tednugent.com.
All day, every day. tednugent.com. By the way, when you wear one of my God, Guns, and Rock and Roll personally autographed hats in Austin, the hippies part the sea like the red before Moses.
You got him running in Austin. It is Ted Nugent. We'll get out of your hair in a few minutes here. Thank you for making so much time.
I have fun with Truth Logic.
I want to talk about some political issues. I interviewed Alan Dershowitz the other day for about 50 minutes, and he said he's from Brooklyn, so he doesn't like the Second Amendment much, because in Brooklyn, you don't want people carrying guns. But he understands why people in places like Texas care so much about the Second Amendment. Obviously, the Second Amendment is less about where you live. It's more about protecting yourself, your family, your freedom from the government overrun. Do you think people understand the Second Amendment now? Do we have a better understanding now because of you, because of what Trump is doing, because the Republicans now at the House, the Senate, the administration, and the courts?
Slowly but surely. And to Mr. Dershowitz, the reason they don't understand the Second Amendment in your jurisdictions is because lawyers like you have created illegal, constitutional violating infringements and the curse of engineered recidivism. because everybody that's getting raped and carjacked and bludgeoned and stabbed and shoved onto the train tracks today are the victims of people we already had in cages, and Alan Dershowitz's failed court system has engineered recidivism, and all those victims had one thing in common. They were the victims of a repeat offender, and they were unarmed and helpless. Let me make it perfectly clear, Joe. I dare Alan or anybody to debate me on this. All gun laws are illegal. It's the gun laws that are illegal. They're all infringements. And if we would keep stabbers and shooters and rapists and bludgeoners and carjackers and the George Floyds of the world in the cages where they belong, everybody could go to Sears and Roebuck like they did when I was a kid and buy a machine gun without paperwork. And by the way, ATF, I don't need your permission or anybody else's permission to make my rifle quieter and safer with a suppressor. That's an infringement. And if you are enforcing that infringement, you're the criminal, ATF. You're the criminal Department of Justice, because all gun laws are infringements. I get to keep and bear arms.
Yeah.
Keep means it's mine, you can't have it. And bear means I have two of them on me and they're loaded.
Yeah.
Any law infringing upon that, I defy. You can edit this out any way you want.
We'll have to edit it out. We'll leave that in. All right. So I think I understand. I think I understand where you're coming from.
What the hell?
Let me ask you a couple of things about President Trump. I know that you wanted to take a look at the 1968 gun control law.
Yes. Infringement.
And so this is all about what? Selling across state lines? Selling to people that you know? Having to get a license and register with the government? What is that about, and why do you want it gone?
Well, it was the Gun Control Act of 1968 was signed by Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Oh, that says a lot already. Horrible.
Do I need to explain why that needs to be dismissed? Why that creep, that deep state, racist punk had no authority to infringe on my second. By the way, a little reminder, I taught a Second Amendment class at Hillsdale College a couple of months ago with the great Attorney General Chris Kobach from Kansas.
Nice.
And I made it perfectly clear, and I'll say it to you, Joe. I'll say it to you people. Take a deep breath, gather your truth, logic, and common sense instincts, and you could write the Ten Commandments. You know what's good. You know what we should do and what we shouldn't do.
Right.
You could write that if you think. You could also write the Constitution. Might not be quite as flowery, but you could write the heartbeat of the Constitution.
Right.
You could write down all the things the king wouldn't allow us to do that we know in our heart and soul God gave us the right to do.
Yes.
So we would write them down and call it the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. Think, man, think. Right now, we are this close to getting rid of the federal infringement of me needing a federal permit to make my rifle quieter. It's unbelievable. It's like the Michigan DNR thinks they have the authority where I put a salt block on my farm. It's literally against the law.
That makes no sense.
Hey, you can take that law and shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
Hey, my name is Ted Nugent. I've got salt blocks on my farm, and I shoot doves. They're a game bird, and I eat sandhill cranes. You know these things I'm saying are against the law. I can kill a sandhill crane, ribeye in the sky in Michigan, but they forbid me to eat it. That is immoral. ATF. You're immoral. DOJ, you're immoral. EPA, you're immoral. FDA, USDA, you're all immoral. And I got I had a bumper crop of middle fingers this year. So if you're running low on middle fingers, I can have them airlifted into your outhouse.
I want to make sure I understand. You could shoot the bird, but you have to let it just waste on the ground?
Unbelievable. And it's a ribeye in the sky.
You can't eat it.
It's delicious. So you know what I'm going to have for dinner tonight? A Michigan ribeye in the sky. I dare you to give me a ticket. I'll tell the jury that your law wants me to waste this precious piece of meat. I laugh in your face. You're hysterical. You're the Nazis. I'm the Jews. Try to put me on that train. I dare you.
Is there a drive to get rid of that act?
Yeah, his name is Ted Nugent.
No, obviously here. I mean,
yeah, no.
But I mean, you're tight with Trump.
We need to get rid of the
He can't overturn it. It's got to go through Congress if it's an act.
Well,
that might be an issue. I think Congress is kind of weak.
If there weren't rhinos, we could do it.
Yeah.
The Gun Control Act of 1968 is illegal. Its existence is Alan Dershowitz, you've been to all the law schools. Debate me how the 1968 gun law, that since the 1968 Gun Control Act, crime has exploded.
Right.
The use of guns in crime has exploded. So nice job. Great work. And the National Firearms Act that Ronald Reagan signed in 1986, which banned any more Class 3 weapons, which are machine guns, short-barreled rifles. By the way, Vicky and Sam Weaver are dead, Joe, by the ATF jackbooted goons because a shotgun was 17 7/8 inch long instead of 18 inches long. Stop. Hey, somebody tell me the difference between an 18-inch barreled shotgun and a 17 7/8 inch barreled shotgun. But don't waste your time, because I will laugh in your face. Yeah. There is no difference. It's arbitrary, it's punitive, it's capricious, and it's an infringement. It's illegal.
So what he's saying is it's an infringement and it's illegal. It's Ted Nugent. Of course,
nobody can debate me on this.
Well, that's true, and I agree with you on that.
I'll sound like an idiot.
The problem is people have allowed it to be infringed. Mm-hmm. The problem is the first 9 should be untouchable by the federal government. It should be in the purview of the federal government. You can't take away this. You can infringe this right. But the states have been allowed to infringe the whole way. It's not after 10, Ted. It's before 10. That means the law is the law. You can't touch the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Third, the Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, 8, 9. But they keep doing it, and nobody wins in court when they challenge it. When Texas or Florida or Minnesota or Montana says you can't this or you have to register that, nobody ever wins when they take it to court.
Well,
why not?
Let me summarize.
They should.
Let me summarize it thusly, Joe.
Okay.
I'm so beautiful. It's what I say is so untouchable. And another untouchable statement from Ted Nugent would be the following. Supreme Court. Woo, it's supreme. I guess that's not just a court, it's supreme. And I guess that Jackson justice isn't just a judge. She's a Supreme Court judge.
But not a biologist. Yeah.
Hey, Jackson, you were hired because of the color of your skin, not because you have any qualifications to be a supreme anything. This woman will make Supreme Court justice decisions for the citizens of America, but she can't tell you what a woman is.
Right.
I laugh in your DEI face. How embarrassing is that someone becomes a supreme anything because of the color of their skin? When you made that decision, U.S. DOJ, did you go to Martin Luther King's grave and take a dump on it? Because that's what you did. Color of skin instead of content of character. You idiots. I laugh in your face.
It's Ted Nugent, the Motor City Madman. Go to tednugent.com, get the hats, you get all the gear. Make sure you go to Nuge Vault. Is it the Nuge Vault or just Nuge Vault?
NugeVault.com. It's full of hysterical stuff.
You won't believe what's there. You got to go and check that out. How do they find out about the dates where you're at these smaller clubs? They're not clubs, are they?
No, we played Johnny's place. There's 3,000 music-loving maniacs.
Wow.
We're playing Brenham, Texas next week at a place called Kenny's Store.
Is that at tednugent.com?
Yes, tednugent.com. A lot of people ask me where they can get a signed Ted Nugent hat, and I go at jerrygarcia.com. You get all my merchandise at tompetty.com.
Stop it. Stop it. It's tednugent.com.
Stop asking that question.
Of course, it's tednugent.com. Go there, follow him on all the social media. Millions and millions do.
Sam, are you enjoying this?
She's got a kick out of it. Ted, thanks for the time. Thanks for the access. Thanks for the friendship.
You, Joe.
I love you back. Thank you so much. We're going to end this here, although we could probably go for another 3 hours. Tednugent.com. Obviously, don't go to Tom Petty. Don't go to Jerry. He was kidding. Don't go there.
And if I offended anybody on this little truth, logic, and common sense up campfire, you deserve to be offended because you have shit for brains.
Be offended is what he's saying. We got to get out of here for now. That's it for Unshaken and Unafraid with Joe Pags. Another one drops soon.